welcome back to American Aupair Host Mom. Today we're going to be talking about how to interview your au pairs and how to find that rockstar au pair that's made just for your family. So there's a couple steps you want to follow here. First of all, the first step is to go ahead and fill out your profile on your family. This is super important. You want to spend a lot of time answering in detail what your family's like. This is a balancing act. One, you want to make sure that you're selling your family a little bit. Why should an au pair want to spend a whole year of their life with you? For us, we live in a city that's great, but it's not on the must-have popular list for au pairs. For those that don't know, most au pairs who haven't been to America dream about being in California, New York, and Florida. If you're not one of these, then you're not on the super awesome list. But guess what? If you sell it right, you can make it happen. So for us, Atlanta's a great place. We enjoy living here and we let people know why. We let them know that we're near a big city with lots of big city stuff, but we're also close to the mountains and waterfalls and a lot of great nature. So that's our sell on our location. Our sell on our family is that we're a fun-loving family that likes to travel. I put a lot of cute pictures showing all the places we've traveled to. But you also don't want to paint a completely rosy picture, because if you do this, you're going to get an au pair who comes in with rose-colored glasses. And what I mean there is they're going to expect a perfect fun experience. And although you want them to have fun, you want them to know this is work too, that you're hiring them to do a job and that is going to be challenging. So for instance, in our family, my son has ADHD. I do try to advertise that although he's a sweet, really loving little boy, you are going to be repeating yourself a lot. For instance, every morning you're probably going to have to tell him to put his shoes on like 5 times. There's also the con of the fact that I've got 2 kids really close in age. And what that means is there's a lot of sibling rivalry and a lot of fighting. That means my au pair needs to know how to be a great referee and have a lot of patience. Although I think every au pair needs patience, particularly with young ones constantly fighting, patience is super important on our side. So I do let them know this in the profile, and as we get deeper into the interview, I also touch on this again and ask how they will handle it. So that's one. Have a realistic profile that both sells and shows the challenges and reality of your family. The next thing is to know what are your priorities, what are your must-haves. Not everything that you wish for an au pair under the moon and stars. Instead, what are the few, maybe 3 to 5 requirements or personality things that you need to have that you cannot give up? So for me, we have 3. Our first one is our au pair needs to have a mastery of English. This isn't common. Most families are okay with not having this, but for us, my son, who is very shy and introverted and struggles with communication, really needs someone who communicates well to him. So in this case, we need a mastery of English. This helps us also narrow down and focus on some countries that, even though it's not their native language, it's more common for them to speak English there and to practice it. So that helps us figure out how to narrow down and what we can't give up. The next thing that was very important to us is that our au pair have a mastery of swimming. We have a lap pool in our backyard. We want our au pair to be safe with our children. We want to know that that au pair can be protective and help our children swim and teach them to swim. And our last thing is just what countries. Again, I kind of said the first 2 kind of help us figure that out. We are not too restrictive here. I do like to keep it open so that I can match with a larger or broader pool. But, again, not for everybody. You want to go ahead and read about some of the cultures of countries and keep it in mind this is generalized. If you thought about you and what your stereotypes for your country would be, you don't want to be matched just based on that, but it is a good general guidance to think about. So once you have your must-haves, now you're ready to actually go out there and start matching. So you go ahead and you send your profile out to any au pair that matches with your must. So I really keep an open mind here. I read a lot of profiles and, I don't think, wow, this person sounds like they're it, or no, I'm a little concerned about that. I note things and I try to remember it. I take some notes, I underline some things in their profile, but I go ahead and send it out. The reason why I try to send out a lot of profiles is because you will get rejections. This is a process of matching on both sides. You are trying to find the perfect au pair, and the au pair is trying to find the perfect host family. So I'm okay when au pairs reject me. That means it made my work easier. I don't have to spend hours and many times interviewing them. They've already let me know that something in how my family operates or my personality is not a match for them, and that's okay. Once I do get some matches, I immediately go ahead and send them my handbook, which has even more detail on my family. And I send them some requests for a Skype interview at this point, Skype or WhatsApp, just some form of video interviewing that I can do with them. And we get that set up. I usually schedule about 1 hour. And I have lots of questions. I'll show you here. I've got pages of questions that I've printed out. And I will admit here, Aupair Mom Blog is a great place to go. You can search on their site for Aupair interview or interviewing au pairs. There's several articles, and if you read the comments and the articles, you'll get a lot of these questions, and that's where I printed this out from. I printed that out. I circled or starred those questions that really fit our family and crossed out the ones that don't. And then I just go ahead and ask those questions. And I'm going to go through a little bit about the questions I've picked and why I asked them. Of course, you'll need to customize this for your family and for the personality of your family to find the right au pair. And then the final thing is, again, you want to do multiple interviews. After you do that first one, you and your spouse definitely want to talk. Were there things you heard that excited you? Were there things that concerned you? And then you can set up another interview in a week or two. And in the meantime, interview a few more au pairs to see how they compare and how it makes you feel when you hear the difference in answers between them. And my rule is to interview about 3 times, although usually by the second I'm having a pretty strong opinion on yes or no there. And then the final thing is that as you get really close, 2 things. You'll want to make sure you're painting the picture right for your au pair. Where do you think they'll be weak? What are you concerned about? And be honest with that. Go ahead and ask them some questions. If it seems like they're a little passive and you're not sure they're going to be able to handle the discipline, it seems like you're really nice. How do you think you're going to handle it when my kids are fighting all day and you're frustrated and you're stressed? How are you going to discipline them? See what answer you get. And then finally, is just asking them to be your au pair. This is always a really exciting and emotional moment. I always do this live, but I also let my au pair, they don't have to answer right away. Although I have gotten the acceptance right away because I've sent so much detail and done so many interviews at this point. I don't want them to feel pressure. So I do say, before you answer, I'll let you know you can think through this, give me an answer in a day or 2. But like I said, I haven't had to wait to this point. And then that's it. Then you just fill out the paperwork to make it final, and definitely make sure you keep in touch between the time you've had the acceptance and the time they arrive so that you can continue to build that relationship. So now we'll just get to the final part. What questions do you ask? Like I said, go out there. Most of the agencies have some templates or questions that they suggest asking, so go ahead and maybe print those out, circle the ones you like. A lot of that probably is answered in the profile from the au pair. And I really want to emphasize here, read their profile, print it out, highlight the stuff you like or have concerns about. One, you're just going to make your au pair feel good that you actually care about them and who they are. I've actually sadly read that some au pairs are asked all the questions that are already in their profile. And then they feel like that family didn't really care to read about who they were. Definitely don't waste their time. Although I will say it's okay to re-ask a question. For instance, one of the questions I always ask is, tell me why you became an au pair or want to become an au pair. This is often a question in their profile that they answer. And I'll kind of follow it up with, hey, I know you already said a little bit in your profile, but I just want you to expand on that. Tell me again in detail, because it's just so important to understand why you want this. Some of the other questions that I ask to understand, how they were raised and what their family's like. So what values did your family instill in you? And again, I'm just looking for, I know what values my family has and how I was raised. How were they raised? It doesn't have to be the same, but it's going to give me an idea of what it's going to be like to live with them, right? And to follow up with that, your family sometimes is different than your friends. So if your friends were to describe you, what adjectives would they describe you with? What words? Again, this is going to give you more feeling on what it's like to live with them and how people perceive them. For us, we don't have our au pair drive, but I know a lot of other host families do care a lot about the driving. And obviously, if you're going to get your au pair to drive your kids, you're going to want to make sure they're a great driver. So lots of questions about not just the time and experience they have driving, but what kind of roads have they driven? Busy traffic, nighttime, daytime, snow, rain. Try to get a feel for that. Then moving on to other questions that we've looked at. We try to get a feel for their independence. Obviously, this is a really big deal for a young person to leave their country, leave their family, their friends, and everything they've ever known to come to a strange place with a different culture. It's exciting, it's an adventure, but there's concerns about that. So I try to feel out how independent they are and how they're going to handle that by asking a couple questions around independence. So have you ever lived outside different from your family, or have you been with your family the whole time? Have you ever taken a road trip with your friends? You know, this might be, hey, they've lived with their family their entire lives, but they have taken a couple weeks away from their family. How did they handle that? How did they feel? How do they think they're going to handle homesickness for the first couple months of being in America? These are all great questions, just again, get a feel of, are they really going to be able to handle being away from everything they've ever known for a year? And, you know, I like realistic answers here. It's okay for them to say that, yeah, they're a little nervous, but that they're also more excited, and tell that. And if they answer with, hey, I'm going to be nervous and anxious, and I'm probably going to be sad in the first couple of weeks, but I think, you know, working with you as a host family and just having phone conversations with my friends and family back home are going to get me through it, and then I'm going to be okay. Those are the kind of answers I'm looking for. Other things that I want to know about, you know, like I mentioned, why they became an au pair, how they found out about it. Do they have close friends who've already au paired and have built-in expectations because of that? Listens to those expectations. Do you think that's realistic or not? And talk to them about that. One thing you definitely want to know is how they handle conflict. Because inevitably, you guys aren't going to agree on everything. Hopefully you agree on 80-70% of stuff, but there will be times where there'll be disagreements. How will they handle that? You want to know that. So ask questions on either how they've handled something stressful, how they've handled conflict in general, how they've handled conflict with their parents. That's probably the most common one. So just get some stories on that. Try to understand how they deal with it. And it's a good thing to start you preparing to know how to look for when they're stressed or not happy. Another question is, are they morning or night people? There's no wrong answer. It's just, what kind of people are you? Does that match, not match? Is that going to be a problem for them to have to wake up super early to get the kids ready for school? They could say they're a night person, but ask them how they'll handle that. Ask what their biggest strength or weakness is. Again, you're just trying to continue to understand by asking somewhat different but repetitive questions in their personality. Why do they want to come to the United States? Of all the countries they could have picked, why are they choosing yours? Again, looking for expectations, preconceived notions. Nothing wrong with it, just why, and how is that going to fit into their time with you? Ask what kind of children they were hoping to au pair for. Did they always picture a sweet little baby, or fun little kids that they can run outside with, or older kids that they'll bond with better? Just again, does it match your family or not? And how do they plan to spend time with their friends or you when they're not working? Again, no wrong answer. You're just looking for your expectations versus theirs. Are you really wanting to have an au pair that wants to hang out with you all the time, go everywhere you go, be part of all your family traditions and celebrations? Or are you looking for an au pair that's just going to take care of your children, sometimes hang out with you, but a lot of times be out of the house exploring the country and hanging out with other friends? Both are okay. You just need to figure out which one you want. Then, you know, how much sleep do they need? This is kind of a weird question, but again, it's getting to that schedule that you're going to run and the schedule they're going to run and how sleep fits into that. Another good one is, do you know anyone in my country? So for us, do you know anyone in the United States? Not good or bad, but if you find out they have a boyfriend here, or they have a close relative like a cousin, and that cousin happens to live a couple hours from you, are they going to want to take multiple trips there? Or are they constantly going to be there? Or do they want those people to come and visit you? Just find that out, and are you okay with it? What is your best and worst memory of your family. Again, trying to understand their family, trying to understand what makes them happy, what doesn't, how they react to that. And then what kind of role do they want with your children? Do they want to be like another mother? Do they want to be a best friend, a teacher? Again, just kind of their perceived role of how they'll be interacting and what they're dreaming that's going to be like. How do you envision taking care of my children? Again, this is just them trying to imagine what it's going to be like day to day, waking your children up, feeding them, playing with them, structuring the day, not structuring the day. Listen to those answers. It's okay if it's not exactly what you were expecting, but talk through things that you're concerned or different on and how they react to that. Ask what they're excited about coming to the U.S. Again, expectations and how they match up. That's what a lot of this is. How do they handle stress? This is much like the conflict question. You can ask them to tell you a story, whether it be about school and testing or friends or boyfriends or sports, anything that just was something that was hard to deal with and how they handled that. So you can see how they'll deal with difficulty once they're in your home. Are they a structured, organized schedule person, or do they like adventure and spontaneity? This is going to get to how they expect to work with you. Do you need to have a really detailed schedule with lots of stuff spelled out, holding their hand? Or are they going to be okay with constant change? Just again, matching it up to what your family is going to be like versus their expectations. Find out how they like to spend their Fridays and Saturdays right now. So again, it's going to kind of give you a cue into how they're going to want to spend time with you or not. And then asking when they hang out with their friends, are their friends the ones to call them and make the plan, or are they? That gets to, again, that planning, organization, leadership type. Both answers are okay. It's just going into what their personality is like deeper. And have they ever traveled without their parents? We kind of touched on that one before for independence and how they liked it, what they enjoyed. You can certainly ask about their childcare experience, things like that, but a lot of that stuff is in the profile. How do they find things challenging in regards to your children's age group? This will kind of cue you into the part they're probably not going to love about caring for your children, because it's not all going to be fun, and that's okay, but you just want to understand that. Ask how they think they'll handle disciplining your children and what that will be like. What they would do if the children don't listen to them, or handle conflict again with the children. How are they going to deal with that? So those are a lot of the questions that I ask. Again, I would go ahead and search and join groups and ask what others ask. There's a lot of other questions out there. Those are just the ones that I really like. With that, I'd love to hear your comments, or love to hear some of the questions that you guys ask and how you decide to match au pairs. And one last thing, or one last tip, definitely search their social media. Do you see any pictures or comments that concern you? If you do, it doesn't knock them out. I would go ahead and bring it up and just ask them what that means and how that fits into your family. With that, that's it for today's session. Please go ahead and subscribe. We're going to have a lot more videos coming up. And if you haven't already, I'd check out some of the others, like how to pick an agency. Thank you.